All right, so I'm going to call to order this meeting of the City of Bloomington Economic Development Commission meeting. It's Wednesday, July 15th, 2020, and I have about 4:16 p.m. in the afternoon. And the first thing I'd like to do is do a roll call. So first we'll do the commission members, and then everybody else in attendance. I'm Kurt Zorn.
Jeff McKim.
Vanessa.
Vanessa McClary.
All right, I think that covers that. And how about the other folks?
Kate, I think, joined us as well, and Malcolm is just joining us. So Kate, I don't know.
Oh, good. Okay.
Kate, are you there?
Hi, yep, I'm here.
Great.
Okay. Malcolm, we're doing introductions. So you want to introduce yourself? Just say you're Malcolm.
Hi, Malcolm Webb. I'm here.
Okay. And Kate, you want to just say your name? I mean, I think it's important we just go around and say our names. So we.
Okay, yep, Kate Rosenberger, hi.
Okay. Don't be shy, Larry. Come on.
Larry Allen for legal.
And I see Keisha Goodman. Is that right, Keisha?
Yeah. So let me introduce. So this is so it's Alex Valley. I'm going to introduce Keisha Goodman is new to the Economic Sustainable Development team. She just started 2 days ago. So we're going to hand the meeting over to her.
Okay.
That's
Excellent.
And then you in the background. Marnina Patrick is also a new member, relatively new member of the team. We last met. She's running the meeting for us today. So those are two ESD faces that you'll see at some point. And then, of course, Jane.
All right.
That's staff. Yep.
So I think we're all set. So let's move to the next part of the agenda, which is the approval of the December 18th, 2019 minutes. So anybody have any comments, corrections? If not, a motion?
Move we approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, move and approve. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed can say nay, I guess.
Actually, point of order. I hate to say it, but we're required to do roll call votes for all all
well,
Zoom
thanks,
meetings.
Jeff.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm new at this Zoom stuff. I haven't been anywhere where we've taken votes, so well I have, but the meeting I have with faculty athletics rep, we do it sort of informally. All right, so we do a roll call vote. So, Jeff, yes or no?
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes.
Kate. So is Kate a member? Alex, because I'm not sure who the new members are. Kate is a new member?
Kate is, yes, she's the represents City Council.
Sorry, Kate, didn't know that, so.
No problem, it's totally fine. Yeah, this is my first meeting because I think it's the first one of the year.
Okay.
Yes, I'm good with the minutes.
Okay, Malcolm. You gotta unmute yourself, Malcolm. Malcolm, we love watching your mouth move. It's better when we can hear the sound coming out of it.
He was giving a whole speech there.
That's right.
Sorry.
Score.
I'm back. I'm abstaining because the minutes show that I wasn't there, which is weird because I remember this conversation, but I'm wondering if it was for a different project that we were authorizing renovation.
No, this was an update. We had talked about this in a previous meeting.
Right.
I don't know how long ago, but then this was sort of an update after some things that occurred. So
right.
That's the reason it's familiar.
I don't vote on minutes that I wasn't there for. So
right.
I'll just abstain unless you need it.
No, that's fine. And I've got an affirmative vote, so we're all set with that. So we have no old business, but we do have new business. And are you serious that you're going to make Keisha? I was going to say, that's not very nice. I'm assuming Jane's going to take the lead on this, right, Alex?
Well, so Jane actually, I think one of her first meetings was in December, and so we're going to ease her into the Economic Development Commission. This is a little bit of a new thing for Jane. So what I thought I would do is take us through the presentation today, And then Jane certainly has familiarized herself a lot with going on in the background, and we'll certainly pick it up from here, but it might be easier to do that for a little continuity.
Turns out compliance is a little less predictable during COVID.
Yeah. So to that point, what I wanted to do was, so what we, for everybody else who's new or who hasn't been through this, once a year, we report out to you, and then with our recommendations about the tax abatements that are underway. We also share with you things that have expired, and we share with you things that are on their way that haven't actually started to hit yet. And then and any other items that we've undertaken with you, as well as the council. So we do that once a year, and then we present with your recommendation, assuming you recommend it, we present it to council, all of which has to be done with a certain period of filing forms that are done annually by recipients of tax abatements. So what this is today is a presentation of the status. I'll give you a little background. I'll go through the active ones. What's different about today, and to Jane's point, is we have had the darndest time, as has the county, getting our hands on certain filings that either have been sent and somehow didn't end up where they were supposed to end up with the county, or people were not sure about deadlines. The whole thing became a little bit of a mess. So we've been scrambling a little bit. So what we need to cover with you today is we can do this in one of two ways. We can either defer our aggregate recommendation and wait until those final pieces of documentation come in, or we ask for your approval of our recommendations for the known quantities, and we follow up with you with the ones that are trickling in. We can maybe decide that after we've gone through the presentation, but I just wanted to lay that out for you because that's kind of the decision we need to make. And it will require us actually to have a special meeting, I think, Larry, between now and close of business Tuesday of next week. So we're going to have to reconvene quickly if either way, because again, we need to be able to close the loop on these before we go to the council on Wednesday and make our presentation to them. So I apologize for the extra meeting. I apologize for this process. This has been hampered in part by some of the pandemic issues, and offices have been a little bit hit or miss.
So a second, Larry, a second meeting is required, a special meeting. We can't do something where we approve it contingent on or something along those lines?
That is a way of handling it, as long as the contingency has two requirements. You can approve it contingent upon staff review, as long as whatever you approve gets disseminated and included with the next meeting's minutes. So you can handle it that way if you don't want to handle a special meeting. If you want to consider the material, though, and scrutinize it before it goes to council, then a special meeting would be the most expedient way to go. So you do have those two options.
We can talk about this after the presentation, but I was thinking if we can do a contingent, maybe we can see the updates, whatever we get by email, and if there are any questions, concerns, then we could convene a meeting. If not, we could, I don't know if it's allowable, but maybe affirm it via email instead. I'm just trying to avoid, everybody's got busy schedules, that's all. But I'm just throwing that out. You can mull that over, Larry, while Alex is going forward. How's that? Okay.
That sounds good.
So this is gonna be a little bit dry. Hang in there with me and we'll go through it. By all means, so I'm gonna share a screen. By all means, jump in, ask questions along the way, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
So you'll see, can everybody see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you'll see I've noted this report as being draft all the way through, because the way that it works, it needs to kind of roll up. All the data needs to roll up, and we're missing some data. So we didn't want to mix bad data with good data in this case. So what we're doing again is the July 15th presentation to you all, and then on Wednesday the 22nd, we'll present to the Common Council with recommendations. And this is the annual tax abatement summary. So in the presentation, I'll go through an introduction. I'll talk about the economic impacts of the tax abatements. We actually don't have any residential projects, pure residential projects right now, so this section is empty, but we do have mixed use projects, commercial projects, and then we've grouped the couple of tax abatements where the filing was not received together, and we'll talk about those, and then other projects that are in progress beyond tax abatements. By the way, we will publish this to all of you and to the website, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, but again, it will be updated before we finalize it for council. So tax abatements, as you know, probably are phased in for new property taxes, and they are all or part of new assessed value that becomes exempted in some way from paying property tax. And just to note, this is only for added assessed value, not cumulative assessed value, including what was there before, from improvements only, in other words. The tax abatements can go from 1 year to 10 years. It's typically a sliding scale from 100% down to 0, but the alternative deduction schedule became allowable. And so really it's wide open. These can be all over the map when it comes to what kind of percentages off per year are applied. And it becomes a negotiation based on what the petitioner is bringing as community benefit. So basically the way that this works is it's a local economic development tool. And the city authorizes the tax abatement, but the county administers it because it is on property. The evaluative criteria that are used and that was adopted by the in 2010 looks at the creation of full-time permanent living wage jobs, the creation of capital investment to enhance the tax base, and then also it looks at quality of life and environmental and sustainability impacts, affordable housing, community service, and community character. The council requires that the Economic Development Commission passes along a recommendation, and then it accepts that recommendation or not at their review.
So wait, Alex, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that? So this body did come up with a recommendation for a new structure for evaluative criteria. Has that not gone anywhere?
It has gone almost all the way to the end. I talked to that at the end of this presentation, Jeff.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I'll cover it quickly then.
Okay.
So this is how it works. At first, our department, Economic Sustainable Development, receives an application and a statement of benefits. And the statement of benefit comes in the form of what's called Indiana Form SB1, which essentially lays out what commitment the petitioner is making either in capital investment or in new jobs and new salaries. That SB1 becomes the anchor against which future criteria are evaluated. And then at the time that the submission is made, Economic Development Commission is presented a recommendation, has to establish an economic revitalization area, and then in some cases, economic development target area, if appropriate. And the abatement term and the schedule of the abatement is determined and recommended by the Economic Development Commission in a resolution. Then that is passed along to Common Council. They review that same, they have their own resolution, but they review it. They then have a public hearing, and at the end of the process, they have what's called a confirmatory resolution, which is following a certain interval for the public to comment, and then either it confirms or modifies what was presented or rescinds. And so that's the general process. Now, I will note again, due to COVID-19, deadlines for submissions of CF1s were delayed. So they were typically due on May 15. They were moved 30 days out to June 15th. That created a little confusion. And then governmental offices were inconsistently staffed in the process. I think, so that just made this whole period pretty hard to nail down exactly what paperwork had been received or sent. And so anyway, it's a little bit of a muddle, but we're getting through it. Basically what happens as a process, though, is in normal circumstances and in these as well, essentially what the petitioner has to compare actual results against what they said they were going to do. And the way that they certify what the actual results are is self-certification through a form called the CF1. CF1 is an annual form that is filed with a county auditor, and then it's also copied to the city clerk for reporting to Common Council. So that form becomes an annual submission as long as the tax abatement is active. That form has to be received each year. That's the form where we've been a little hit or miss getting our hands on some filings. The council then has given the ESD, the Economic Sustainable Development Department, the responsibility to compile and report to you, and then forward it along to council for any action. Any questions? I'll keep going. So now sort of section 2, so the economic impacts of the tax abatement. So what we've done here is we've looked at all of the tax abatements, only the ones that are active and only the portions of the ones that are active. So there are a couple of instances where you have either a real estate, that's what RE stands for, or a personal property tax abatement. There are at least 2 instances where one portion of the tax abatement has been activated, but not the other. And so just to be clear, these numbers on the SB1 lay out all of the commitments that they've made, but under the actual investments, it's only those things that they have certified that they are underway. So it's not a complete picture of what's going on. In the case of the shortfall from commitment to actuals in commercial real estate, for example, this is Catalent's 2019 tax abatement, and they are doing it out in phases for a total commitment of a certain number. They've only gone a certain portion of that way, so they've delivered one phase of that project rather than the entirety of the commitment. So that's what's going on here. But nonetheless, you'll note that in the proposed new investments, there's a lot of investment being proposed, and we're well along the way of having that investment met. We have a lot more to go, but we are confident that that's going to happen. So I've broken it up: commercial real estate, commercial personal property, mixed use, and residential. And again, there's no residential this year. There have been in the past. So when you look at the economic impacts and the progress towards the new jobs and the salary, proposed new jobs of 286 for proposed new salaries of $17,452,000. That is all the SB1 portion. So this is what they said they were going to do, which equals an average proposed new salary of $61,021. What's actually happened is 1,114 new jobs with an average salary or actual cumulative salary of $69,248,917, which is an average of $62,162, so $62,162.
Alex,
Yep.
can I ask a question? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Catalent, and is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we'll go into what rolls into these numbers, but what's driving that one largely is Catalent just exploded. Okay,
that's what I was going to ask. Like, how can they be so far off what they thought they were going to bring in? It really is like new jobs, and it's not like somebody coming and then them replacing it. It's like new roles, new positions, right? Like they're actually employing 1,100 people. Okay, thanks.
So, and that's not just this latest push, Kate. This is the latest push is obviously, they have 2 COVID COVID-related projects underway, but they were also on a tear before that started. So there's a lot of stuff going on over there.
Thank you.
The last number here is that it adds the 1,114 with the actual commitment to retain jobs as well for a cumulative 2,673 jobs and $158.9 million, which is, I'm sorry, you know what? This is a typo. This should be 59,458. I fat fingered that. I will update that. So this is a chart that's a little different in that it's actually looking at the assessed values as opposed to the invested values. So you know, it's a different number than what you'll see here. And the assessed values also includes, you know, it does not include lands, but it only includes the improvements. So we are at 147.7 on that. The bottom line is tax abatements, you know, are helpful in driving investment. They're helpful in driving job growth. We certainly are very careful about when to use them and when not. We've turned people away. We went away recently. So we're not suggesting let's go on a tax abatement spending spree here. What we're suggesting is when they're well used, and we believe they have been well used, they yield some positive results.
So basically you're saying that these projects that are described in here have resulted in the increase in assessed value of $148 million.
That's
or
right.
whatever that number came out to.
Yeah. And that's a number that will be one of the numbers that will change, because we are not including in those counts, nor in any of the roll-ups, any of the benefits that stem from CF1s that we have not yet received. So we are waiting for that. So we wanted to try to keep the two buckets clean of each other.
And Alex, you did say it was the improvement assessed value only, right? Not
That's correct.
The land.
Not the land. So I'm going to quickly go through these, starting with the mixed use projects. Urban Station on 403 South Walnut. This was Council Resolution 1612. So you could recognize from the numbers, the first two digits are the year that it passed. So 2016 was when this went through City Council. And what we have is basically us listing for each of these, and I'll go through this pretty quickly. You can go through them yourselves, but the statement of benefits, this is a summary of what they put in during the SB1 step, where in this case, it was a 10-year real estate abatement, new investment of $11,500,000, retaining 10 employees, creating 5 new with a retained $400,000 salaries, estimated new salaries of $115,000. And this is a construction of mostly a housing complex, but it had the chocolate mousse on the first floor, if you recall. And that there was a set aside of workforce housing and units with a 99-year duration period in this project. And so what's happened, so a couple of things have happened in this case, which have complicated things. Number one, this property has been sold twice since it went through tax abatement. There was a recent acquisition last month by Virgin Health, I think they're called. So there's a little bit of there've been some hiccups related to this, but it does also mean that it's hard to compare apples and apples here. The retention of employees was associated with the management company that built the product, and obviously Virgin Health is not submitting their own company employee count associated with this property. So you have a pretty significant discrepancy in terms of retained employment. They did shed one job, so that's a net loss of one job. However, the actual new investment, which was 12.6 million, exceeds the 11.5. So, and the assessed value has actually grown significantly year over year. So that's a interesting dynamic that we saw coming out of year over year comparisons of assessed value. So, this was a little close, but we do recommend that they've substantially complied with the statement of benefits. Again, it's an apples and oranges comparison, and if you look at it in a pure way, they've largely held up, an employment number that they committed to, and they've exceeded an investment number that they committed to. And we are deriving, from an assessed value perspective, we are deriving, very positive yields from it. So we felt like that this was worth recommending.
So this gets back to my question earlier about the structure of the criteria for granting abatements, and this is where we start, square peg and round hole, where we're trying to fit housing abatements into a structure meant for employment, and it doesn't always make sense. I mean, this one makes a little more sense because there is I mean, you have the chocolate mousse, there is some employment associated with it, but still, this is a housing project. And, you know, trying to justify a housing project based on keeping on a maintenance person or something like that just doesn't make any sense. It makes sense if what you're trying to do is build housing, right? So I know you said you were going to talk about that at the end. This is just my frustration with the structure of the criteria.
Yeah, and one of the units that we added, one of the layers of criteria was actually the creation of affordable housing units, which has been, you know, area of focus of the tax abatement in the last couple of years. So totally makes sense, and I think we just need to kind of clean that up and get it in front of council and be done with it. In the meantime, that's why we didn't sweat the job loss a little too much, because that, again, it was that's not really the point of it.
Right.
And they have been delivering against their affordable housing commitments, and the the investment exceeded what it originally was intended to. So we felt comfortable recommending this one.
Exactly. Okay.
The Foundry, so you'll see this is now we're treating this as a commercial project. Everybody knows that or not everybody, but I assume you know that there are floors of the Foundry that are residential, and there are floors of the Foundry that are commercial, and then there's sort of privately held top floor stuff. This is only applicable to the commercial and to the residential in terms of the tax abatement, but really you'll see a lot of the personal property side of this is really driven early into the commercial side. So we kind of call this one commercial. It probably could go either way, but that's largely where the personal property is coming into play. So it's both a real estate and a personal property improvement. Again, this was done in 2014, so the previous administration. The Foundry took a while to build itself out. Real estate was for 5 years and personal property was for 10 years. The estimate new investment on real estate was 11.5 at the time. This is, again, their SB1. This is what they committed to. And the new investment on personal property was 400,000. They said they would retain 54 employees and add 11 new ones, retaining $3.6 million in salaries and adding $825,000 more dollars. And again, the tax abatement does not include the top floor residential units, but it does have commercial space on the first and second floor that's folded in. On the compliance, their actual, I should clarify that real estate improvements have been completed and are being booked. This is one of those cases where the personal property has not yet fully been purchased to be able to have them trigger that portion of it. So they've purchased some, but they have not submitted to trigger that portion of it. So in terms of real estate, they've invested 18.876 on the real estate side, which well exceeds the amount they originally thought. They have retained the 54 employees and the salaries associated with those, and added 11 new with a salary number that actually exceeds the other one. And the assessed value for that property right now is 15.9. So we find that they're hanging in there solidly. They have not completed the personal property side of things, but that they, from a real estate perspective, that they have met the compliance criteria that we expected to see. And this is in the first year of the 5 for real estate. And again, the personal property is not yet started.
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
What is the personal property here?
So technology equipment. If you go back to the original resolution, which I have pulled here for our reference, basically what they have committed to doing is purchasing new information technology equipment, and they've described it in their application. And so that equipment is associated with the businesses that are sitting inside of the lower portion of that building.
Okay, technology equipment. And so I'm just trying to figure this out. So I don't know a lot about this property. Is the people who own it live in the top 2 units? Is that, or are planning on that? Is that right?
Yeah, I think those are those were excluded because those, I believe, were set aside to be owner occupied units.
And that doesn't count for the real estate improvements.
That's correct. Those are kind of luxury condominium type set aside. Those were excluded at the time.
I'm new here. Okay, yeah. So I would consider all of these units luxury, but I've been in some of the regular ones, and I have looked at one of the top floor ones. I get it's like a different price point for sure. I don't know. Can you just explain how that's not? So real estate is different than some kind of luxury real estate that we look at for economic development. Is that?
I have to tell you, this is also before my time, Kate. So it's hard to piece it together. What I do know is that in the current administration, we do not like to provide tax abatement unless there is a very distinct, sort of carve out of things that we don't think qualify. So often, if someone is putting affordable units on the table, and those are, and they're also market rate, and they're not being, then often what we'll do is we'll only proportionately create a percentage structure that applies to the affordable units.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, even though these condos are expensive as is, the two on top are definitely in a different world. So the former administration was also like, this is you're not getting a tax abatement for these two units.
Yeah.
I don't have perfect recall, but when we talked about this years ago, I don't recall us making any distinction at our level, but when it went in front of the council, I believe they carved out those two top units and excluded them from the abatement. If I remember correctly, that's the way it transpired.
Yeah, in resolution 1415, section C3, it says the two penthouse condominium units proposed for the top floor of this project shall not be eligible for a tax abatement. So they've carved those out specifically.
Okay, yep, that makes sense. Thank you. That makes sense.
There was extensive debate in city council about this project at the time related to this very project.
Now, I have to say, I certainly don't mean to second guess what happened back then, because I have to say that, number one, I mean, that there's some very good, strong, dense employment right on the beeline in a, great, good looking building. And so, I think that
at that time, Alex, you're right. I mean, this was if I recall, it was a very strong project, and the 50 some jobs were kind of very important jobs, if I remember correctly, a quite well established technology company. Again, my memory's not perfect, but there were really good arguments for tax abatement for the majority of the project.
Yeah. So I'll keep moving here. Anything else on the Foundry? So the next one is Catalent. You might know it as Cook Pharmica DBA Catalent. So I'm just to start, there are actually two Catalent tax abatements. One for some work that was started back in 2015, and then there was a new one for the additional work that's being done, and that was approved by council in 2019. So this is the 2015 one. It is only personal property for 10 years, estimated investment of $25 million, retaining their baseline of 550 jobs and adding 70 new jobs for $3.2 million in incremental salary. So this is very straightforward personal property abatement against generation of new jobs. There's no real estate implication, no real property real estate implication. And basically at the time they were making investments in the building, including machinery and equipment to expand formulation and filling and packaging of vials and syringes. And so they have exceeded the number of dollars invested in personal property. So instead of $25 million, they've invested 31.9 million. Of course, retain those jobs that they said. They've also created 686. So this is, Kate, I think you were asking this earlier. This is before this whole COVID-related surge that was going on. They were doing a lot of hiring. They well exceeded the numbers off, and we sort of pegged them to this 2015 resolution. So there are 686 new employees with a $37.1 million salary. Was of course, really, really much higher than we thought. And so we recommend, again, in this case, substantial compliance and the abatements in the second of 10 years. So this is a second abatement, so it's year 2019. And this is the one that has two parts, and I'm gonna really focus on the personal property one because the real estate one hasn't kicked in yet, or they haven't filed for that yet. But this is a combination real estate and personal property for 10 years with an $85 million personal property investment and a $40 million real estate investment. As you may know, the building that they have, the Catalent building, is the former Pharmaca building, and then before that it was an RCA building and a lot of empty space. And so our strategy at the time was, hey, if we can help them do a little build out, start the build out process of this excess capacity, this becomes a substantial center for biologics in their network. And I think we're seeing that play itself out now with this emphasis they put in Bloomington for some of the COVID-related work that's being done right now, and they're hiring. They're on a hiring spree right now, trying to fill in the jobs for that work. So we feel like it's actually kind of playing out the way we'd hoped it would play out, with a retention of 839 employees and $43.9 million. They estimated at the time that they would grow by 200. Again, this is pre-COVID, so 200 additional employees with new salaries of $13.3 million. At the time of the filing, they'd added 397 employees with retaining that baseline. Their investment of $85 million they've made $34 million of that investment. But again, this is phase one of a multi-phase investment that is hooked to this tax abatement. So we feel like they are on schedule. They're certainly exceeding their employee counts. And that we see this playing itself out very positively. So we were recommending compliance against the phased approach of their statement of benefits. And this is the first year that they're going after the personal property. Hoosier Energy, you may know this building down at the south side of town. It's a real estate only tax abatement for 10 years, estimated $20 million investment, retaining 116 employees with $11.1 million of retained salaries and no new employees forecasted at the time. It's a really glorious building if you haven't been in it. LEED certified, 80,000 square foot headquarters. And in terms of compliance, so this is 2013, they put this through, and in terms of compliance, they are slightly exceeding the investment that they said by 800,000. They have retained those 116 employees. They've added 16 new employees with $5.9 million in new salaries. And so we feel like this is compliant with the statement of benefits. So this section is about filing that we have not yet received. There are two. One is the union at Crescent. That was Council Resolution 1730, so it was 2017. They were actually, they're in progress on the development, and they were, they had submitted an appeal for their assessment they got this year, property assessment. And so that delayed them in filing the necessary tax abatement paperwork. They decided to retract that appeal just recently. And we received from them this week indicating that they would be intending to file their paperwork for the tax abatement. We do not yet have it in hand. And this is one of the ones we're gonna have to circle back with you on. The problem with this one and Woolery for that matter, is that we have never, unlike others that came in at the last minute, where we had previous years and we could assume safely that they would not have uninvested, for example, in the real estate, stuff like that. In this case, in both of these cases, they're the first time we'd be receiving their CF1s. So we don't really have a sense of comfort that we can assume anything on it. So we are waiting for Union Crescent and Woolery Mill, both of which intend to file late. In the case of the Woolery Mill, they told us that they had actually filled out and mailed the form to the county's office It was not received by the county, so we have no idea what happened, but I did receive, we both received a scanned version of it upon request today. So we have that in hand and we'll be able to process it and start these two up. The Union and Crescent we have not yet received, but we have asked them for it immediately. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but this is the Union and Crescent. It's a 10-year real estate tax abatement, $17.6 million new investment, and it's affordable housing. So I mean that's really to Jeff's earlier point. This is how we've been using tax abatements in this case. And then in Woolery Mill, you all are probably familiar with that, but there's an employment component to it. This is a real estate 10-year real estate tax abatement, and they've renovated the limestone mill down there, and so it's a pretty cool project. This has been a little bit convoluted coming through because they had to extend the original tax abatement. It's just the project has taken forever. And then there's one that's just hanging out there that was not supposed to file and hasn't filed. This is a Milestone Ventures, also called Southern Knoll. It's pretty close to the cemetery over on the west side of town. And we're tracking this one for probably a filing next year. And this is a $4 million 10-year tax abatement, and again, affordable housing focused. We have carved out, this is the real estate portion only of the 2019 Catalent, so you have the details broken out. We just put it in progress, mostly to remind ourselves to look for it next year. So this is a carve out of that. Last section here is other EDC activity. I'll go through this quickly, but the first part of that is the housing bond approvals that we've done, and the second part of the tax abatement guidelines that Jeff was referring to before. So you may recall there have been several bonds that have been approved through the Economic Development Commission. These are really pass-through bonds, so they're not impacting to the city or its ability to bond. But in both cases, the value that we're bringing is really to be able to, have the bonds occur at a lower fee structure to the petitioner than they might be able to get elsewhere, which has real value to them. So in a sense, it's it's something that we can do that costs us very little, but that actually goes straight to the project. So in this case, the Limestone Crossing project is a rehabilitation of what was formerly known as Canterbury House. And it was about $26 million, 208 units, and they are all focused at 60% of the area median income. And so they're redoing roofs and trash enclosures, parking lot, enhanced site lighting, and accessibility. And then inside, they're doing new flooring and countertops, the whole renovation inside. So this is great project, kind of rehabilitating units to put them back on the market for lower income use. And then this is a Bloomington Housing Authority project. It's Walnut Woods and Reverend Butler, and they're doing also, it's complicated, but they're doing what's called a RAD conversion over there. Essentially, they're acquiring public housing and putting it into a 501c3 that's been stood up for that. And as part of that process, they're renovating their units. There are going to be several phases of this. This is the first phase, and they're doing 116 units. And again, we're doing a bond pass through for that. And then 56 units with the Reverend Butler Apartments. And so this is a great project. It's wrapped up in a much larger program that Bloomington Housing Authority has undertaken. But in both cases, we had a role in it, and an important role. And it helps very literally. I mean, we've been told a number of times that the money that they saved goes directly into the unit renovations. They're able to, as a result, do more units. So that's great.
Alex, can I point out on the Limestone Crossing that we picked up 20% more affordable units. So it was previously 80% at 60% AMI, and with the new bond, it's now all 100% affordability.
Yes, that's great. Jeff, you mentioned this. These are the tax abatement guidelines. I'm going to kind of fly through this. It's a little bit of a reminder to everybody. Why don't I just go to the kind of the key slide, which is this last one, and the recommendations to edit the review criteria, which is, I think, what you were talking about right now, very geared towards jobs and kind of the more of the commercial side of things, whereas we've been using it substantially for affordable housing in recent years. And so the process that we went through in late 2018 and into 19 was to essentially look at those criteria, reset them or add to them, basically, and then that will make it easier to judge the success of tax abatements in the future, because the criteria will be a little bit more aligned with, in the cases of affordable housing tax abatements, the criteria and the certifications will be more easily alignable. So, the creation of affordable housing units is a very specific thing that was added. Also, permanent living wage jobs with benefits was added, and then also increases in wages for the existing. So those are the new things that were added in and that you did not see previously in the way that evaluative measures were taken on tax abatements. So as you'll note, oh, go ahead, Kate.
Okay, thanks. With the criteria, we didn't really look at the environmental and sustainability criteria in the start, but is there anything in there already about, transportation infrastructure or, right? I mean, now with affordable housing or with not affordable housing, but new housing developments, and with the land use committee, we tend to also look at, right, new bus routes or increased bus frequency when we're looking at adding apartments or condos and spaces. So can you talk a little bit about that, the environmental and sustainability criteria?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty broad right now. So it's not very specific to things like transportation, but that is where you would put it, right? So people do to that in the sections that currently, this is like going back to the beginning, Kate, if you can see, of the presentation, the existing ones have, quality of life and environmental and sustainability impacts. And so, we're not getting so prescribed that we're saying we're going to have a criteria associated specifically with transportation. We are going to evaluate that as they come in, and those that do or don't will be judged partially as a result of that. So I feel like I understand what you're saying, and I know that that's really important. It's actually come up in a number of instances in projects that have come through to look carefully at that, and I think that that's well worth doing. I'm not sure that we want to get so specific that we start to list out criteria at that level of specificity. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, as a newbie here, where can I look at all of the criteria?
So everything Larry, is the best place for Kate to familiarize herself with that in the ordinance?
So there is a tax abatement website to the city's website that has this document in PDF form, so you can see the criteria. Some of them, this is an enhancement over the statutory criteria a little bit, because there are certain statutory elements. Affordable housing is one of them. There's a minimum threshold for affordable housing that you have to consider, or whether it be in an economic development target area or economic development area. But yeah, thank you, Jane. That's exactly it. So Jane has just shared the website in the chat, and there is a PDF form that shows a rundown of these criteria.
And
okay. Yeah, I'll read through those.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. All right, so that's it. That's the presentation. I'm going to unshare the screen and go back to the group.
So do we have any comments for Alex and Jane?
Well,
And then
so,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
well, okay. So the two pieces of information that we're missing, you're missing Union at Crescent and Woolery. Are those the only two?
That's correct.
Okay, and if you've got the Woolery information, you just haven't had a chance to deal with it. and and Union and Crescent is still missing.
That's correct.
Okay. And so what we've seen so far, other than those two, you don't have any problems with recommending finding of compliance on any other than those two, which we don't have information on yet. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep, that's right.
Okay. So my take is that I would have no problem. Kurt, you mentioned a contingent compliance. I would be comfortable with a contingent finding of compliance for everybody if the information received on those two missing abatements were in strict compliance with what they had promised. I think if they're not, then I think personally I would want to review it again. But that's my thought.
I think that makes sense. In other words, I think, Alex, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the first example you gave us, there was some areas that were very strong, other areas that there was deficiency, right? The non-applicable to the retained jobs, right? So that would raise some flags, I think. But if we get something like Catalent, which is fairly obvious that they've gone above and beyond what they had estimated in their benefits, that would be an easy one for us to approve by email, I think, right, Jeff? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking we could approve everybody that we've received the information for right now, and then just do a contingent. I don't know if we're allowed to technically do it by email.
Yeah, it's really up to you, Larry. I'm looking at you, Larry. So.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to vote by proxy by email. What we could do is approve it by contingency with a mandate that the staff includes any approved materials in the future minutes. That way we keep everything public. Just because this isn't a nonprofit board, a typical nonprofit board, unfortunately you can't vote by proxy, which would prohibit any votes by email.
Okay. So Alex, do you understand what we're trying to do?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, it's going to be there are jobs and there are investment numbers, and what I hear you saying, just to make sure I understand it, is as long as they meet the threshold of both minimally or exceeded, then you all would be comfortable if the CF1 comes back and it matches against those two criteria when it comes to against the SB1s. In both cases, you would be comfortable sort of saying it has, contingent on that, it has been approved. If either one of those is not as clear cut as that, like in the case of Urban Station, where the jobs got funky, then you would want to see that and be able to review that before we go to council.
That represents my position. Yeah. Now there are three other members that I haven't heard, but that represents my position.
Yep. Kate, Vanessa, Malcolm, how you feel?
I'm okay with that.
I am too. Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute. Yes, I'm fine with it as well.
Same.
Malcolm?
Same.
Okay.
And then we will then follow up with the actual supporting documentation at the next meeting as part of the packet as a way to confirm that judgment should we not get together between now and then.
Right. So I'm assuming we need a motion that Jeff has basically made. We need a second to that and approve.
I'll second that.
All right. All right. Jane, I assume I see you looking down. You must be trying to take notes on this. So are you comfortable with what the motion was?
Marnina is, and it's recorded too. So we're good.
Okay. So any discussion? So basically the way I understand it is you'll use your best judgment. If it looks like it's in compliance, we'll be all set. If you think we need to have a meeting, you'll let us know. Correct? Right, yes. Alex? Okay.
That's correct.
That's basically what I want to do. I'm trying to avoid having a meeting just for the sake of having a meeting if everything comes across.
I agree with that.
All right. So any other discussion on the motion?
I don't think this should go in the motion necessarily, but should we talk about what the course would be if the CF ones are not in compliance.
I think
Or
then we
we
have to have,
just
Then we have to have
my
a meeting,
understanding is we'd
yeah.
have to have that meeting before the 22nd, so we can decide whether we want to include them in our report or exclude them.
Okay.
Is that's the way I understand it. Everybody else understand it that way? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Alex.
and Kate has a good suggestion, which is let's maybe vote on your current proposal, but then before we wrap up, if we can set aside tentatively some time for that final for a meeting early next week, just so we've got it, and we can just not do it if we don't need it.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Excellent suggestion.
All right, so we have that motion on the floor. We understand where we're going. As Jeff said, with Zoom meetings, you got to do a roll call. So we will do a roll call. And let me see if I can figure out how to do alphabetically. Let's see. McClary, McKim. I think, Vanessa, you're first.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
And now it looks like Kate.
Yes.
Malcolm.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Don't have too many Z's in our alphabetical readings.
I usually never paid attention when we went alphabetical because I always knew I was going to be last. So I just, let people go off and do it.
Zuckerberg turned us down for this, unfortunately. So you're lucky. So I will then ask if we can quickly do a look at calendars and see if we can pick we would need probably more than 30 minutes on either Monday or Tuesday morning that you might have some time. So
I'm available for either if we need to.
So
I'm available for either as well.
okay.
Same.
I'm available for either, but earlier, well, let's put it this way. On Tuesday, I'm available up until 9:30. On Monday, I'm available up until about 10:30.
10:30 in the morning,
Yes.
but not in the afternoon.
The afternoon on Monday is, well, I don't, you guys probably don't know, but I've been appointed the acting vice provost. So my schedule has gotten completely hijacked. So Tuesday afternoon, I'm okay after about 2.
Well, would everybody be able to do 8:30 on Tuesday morning?
I am.
That works for me.
I can.
Let's hold that time, 30 minutes, 8:30 to 9 a.m. Tuesday morning. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if it does, we'll have that set aside. And we will try to make it as quick in and out as possible with any discussions about discrepancies that we see in the final 2 filings. And by the way, if they don't file, they're out of luck, and we'll just move on without them. So we're not going to hold up the process.
Can I ask a favor?
Yeah.
I apologize that I think I owe you an email, Kurt, and maybe you as well, Alex. While we're talking about meetings and calendars, could we discuss the possibility of moving the normal permanent day for this meeting? I think I shared with you that we picked the one day a month in the middle of the week that my girlfriend has off. And so it always destroys a chance for us to do something.
Yeah, we did talk about this at our last meeting, I thought.
So it's really not, it's not the fact that it's Wednesday, it's the fact that it's this particular Wednesday.
It's the fact that it's the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So my girlfriend works in a dentistry office, and the 3rd Thursday of the month is when they do surgery. You work out of the surgery center, and so she has that day off.
Yeah. One of the things that we looked at, I think at the time, there are two challenges. One is scheduling just people on this in the group, and then there's also a conference room scheduling, the latter of which is a moot point right now. So I think that was the holdup to moving it to a different Wednesday, same time. And because that's not an issue right now, I guess, would anybody object if we move this to the 2nd Wednesday 15.
I would not object.
That'd be great.
I don't object contingent on the fact that my assistant doesn't object. So I hate to make it sound bureaucratic, but she warned me not to do anything with my calendar. So if you could send out a meeting maker or whatever they call those, I can get you an answer real quick.
Right. We'll send a note out just asking people to confirm. So it would be the second Wednesday of the month, 4:15. Again, Zoom calls all the way through until things change. But
and so like EDS staff is okay with that because that is also BUEA, right? I mean, you would just be preparing for two. You're fine. It's just 2 meetings. It's okay. Manage.
yeah, Kate, you're on both. Is that is that too many commission meetings for one day?
No, it's okay for me.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Anything
Thanks.
else?
No, thank you for your time, your patience, and we will follow up. And Larry, you have something?
Yeah, actually, sorry, because this is actually the first meeting of the year, there are some annual matters just to take care of. Electing a slate of officers, which normally we would do at the top of the meeting. We've had the same slate of officers, I think now for a year and a half, because there was no meeting this year. So there does need to be an election of a slate of officers. And I will just note, there also needs to be conflict of interest forms. I don't believe that those were sent out at the beginning of the year. We usually do that as a distribution in the first month when you have the meetings. I'll email those each to you, or Jane will. One of the two will get together and have those just sent to you. Those are pretty quick and dirty that you can fill them out and sign them and get them back to us. But the only annual thing that we need to take care of at this moment is just an election of officers. You can continue the same slate if that's the motion that you prefer. I believe, Kurt, you're the president. As I recall, Malcolm is the vice president. I believe Vanessa is the secretary.
No, I am not the secretary.
Are you the vice president, Vanessa?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vanessa's
I don't
the vice
fill the
president.
role of secretary. Yes.
And Malcolm's secretary. So,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
So Vanessa, if you want to switch, that's fine. If
No,
somebody else wants to.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. But thank you.
Okay, I nominate Kurt Zorn as president, Vanessa McClary as vice president, and Malcolm Webb as secretary.
Second.
Okay. Hate for that to die for one.
So I think we,
yeah.
So is there any discussion? And then if not, according to Jeff, we have to do a roll call vote. So you know the order. Don't make me go through the alphabet again. How's that?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I think we've got unanimity on this.
Fantastic.
All right.
Thank you all.
And you'll send
Thank
the
you.
you said you'll send the conflict of interest.
Yes,
Right.
we'll send you the conflict of interest shortly. You can fill
Okay.
it out whenever you get a chance.
All right. Well, it's always good to ask if there's any more business because we did have more business. So that's good. Anything else? If not, it's good seeing everybody, even if it's not in person. Hopefully sometime in the not too distant future, we can actually huddle together in that little conference room. I didn't think I'd yearn for those days as much as the walk down to
I
the
know,
city
right?
hall, but dang, I really do. I want to see you guys. Kind of want to shake your hands or at least bump elbows or whatever the heck we're supposed to do these days. So, all right.
Congratulations,
everyone.
Kurt, too, on your
Yeah.
appointment.
Well, thanks.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's great.
All right. We stand adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.